Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and welcome to day 5 of the lockdown vlogs. I know some of you have had issues with the sound on this recently, so I'm going to try and make it louder for you. I don't know if I can talk louder. I'm actually filming this on my iPad rather than my usual camera, so the sound is different, and I'm editing it with my headphones in, so I'll try and boost the volume for you in the edit, so hopefully that'll work. I had a FaceTime call last night with Dan and Grandma and Grandad, which was really nice. It was just good to see them and just have a laugh, and I feel way more relaxed now. We're going to attempt some sort of like mastermind style quiz over FaceTime, so we're going to select our specialist subjects today, and Mum and I are going to do their questions, they're going to do our questions, and I think I'm going to have Anne Boleyn as my specialist subject, but I don't know if I could live down the shame of not getting all my questions right. Talking of Anne Boleyn, because of you guys giving me suggestions, I've recently, so recently, like as of last night, started listening to the soundtrack of Six the Musical, and I've started looking it up, and do you know what, I don't know what I think about it. I don't know what I think about it. My instinct is, like, musically, I like it. I like the idea that they're taking the archetypes of the wives, like, traditionally those archetypes, and turning them into that kind of pop image. I do like that. I am struggling with their Anne, I must say. I was most worried about Catherine Howard. You told me to listen to the song. It's something like All I Want to Do or All They Want to Do. I don't know, I listened to it and I actually really like that. I like that it addressed like her kind of issues and the trauma hidden under everything. I don't know, it's a bit weird to hear that song being full of like sexual innuendos because again she was so young. I don't know what I think about it. I haven't quite decided in my head whether I think it's good or disrespectful. Certainly there's the line in Anne's song, Don't Lose Your Head, where she says politics wasn't her thing. I mean, come on now. I feel like they've kind of made Anne into like some sort of Lily Allen character, and like that kind of makes me feel a little bit, I don't know if I like that. But I like the actual premise of the musical, like itself. I'm going to get more into it. I like the music, I love the idea of them being a group, I think it's very clever. I love how they've made, it's kind of very Little Mixy, and there are influences from different artists, and they've kind of taken like Greensleeves and made it into that. It's all very clever, but I don't know, like instinctively I think half of me thinks yeah it's good, and then the other half of me just kind of sits there and thinks, oh Anne, my dear, they still haven't done you justice, and a whole new audience. She's got like a huge fandom, the new Anne from the Six the Musical thing, and like that the person who plays her is really, really good, like she's great, but like I kind of still feel like that's doing what the musical doesn't want to do. Like the whole point of the musical surely is to free them from archetypes, and yet they've just made them into new archetypes for this generation without enough depth. I don't know what I think. In some ways I like it, in some ways I don't. I need to think about it a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going straight in. I have a question from Dean Leake. I think I've answered one from you before, Dean. Sorry if I'm not getting to your questions. I'm not just trying to leave anyone out. I'm just getting to the ones I see here. I wanted to ask, how did you decide what kind of videos to make when you first started YouTube? As I used to make videos and I've wanted to start again for quite a while, but I'm really indecisive when it comes to deciding what sort of videos to do. Any advice? I can't really advise you on what sort of videos to do other than do something you're passionate about. The reason I did YouTube was because I couldn't actually leave the house. Like my anxiety was so bad I couldn't leave the house. Lots of my early videos I've now got on private because I don't feel like that's who I am now, and I feel sad watching them because I was a very sort of sad, broken sort of shell of a person in those videos, and it just makes me sad to look at them, so I make them private. I just don't want to see them, but I've kept them. I think I was just really like lonely. I felt voiceless. I had a lot to say and I wasn't sure how to say it. I'm very opinionated. I needed an outlet. I wasn't able to see people. I'd shut myself off from my friends, so I wanted a sort of community. So I think I first started doing like covers and things, like very miserable covers where I was so ill at that point that like I don't even smile at all. Like you can see the fakeness in me trying to smile at the end of each cover and it doesn't even work. So yeah, I did covers, and then I started getting into feminism stuff, and that was more successful in terms of views, but I've never been someone who's kind of, I don't know, it depends what kind of YouTuber you are, because I got some hate written about me before, which was like, oh, like a failed YouTuber, that kind of thing. But I think that depends on your definition of YouTuber and your definition of failed, because it depends what your reason for YouTube is. Like, my YouTube is my outlet to make what I want to make and say what I want to say, and it's just a bit like a sort of therapy for me. I'm not making it for views. Like, a lot of people run their YouTube like a business, and that's fair enough. They follow trends on YouTube, they're trying to get as many views as possible, trying to make money from YouTube. For me, I just, maybe I'm too lazy for that, I don't know. I just want to make videos when I want to make them, about what I want to make it about, and if nobody watches any of my videos, I would still make them regardless, because it's kind of therapeutic to me to make them. So I would say it depends what sort of YouTuber you want to be. I personally find it really fulfilling to just make videos about the topics I want to talk about, things that I'm interested in. But I don't know, it depends what kind of YouTuber you are. I don't want to put down YouTubers that do trends and, you know, try and stay relevant and keep viewing figures and look at their statistics for who's watching the channel and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, there's a clever business around that. You know, I'm not that sort of brain. But, yeah, no disrespect to them, but that's just not me as a person, really. Like, sorry to, like, derail this slightly, but actually, I thought about making a video about this before, and, like, the idea of YouTube. And actually, it was when I heard that comment, yeah, I was thinking about it, and it made me think about how we are in a society where we have to commodify everything we do, and everything we do has to be geared towards, like, capitalism and making money and all that kind of stuff. And it's not about passion, necessarily. And I feel like that's a real disservice to YouTubers who do it for passion, like, because they just enjoy doing it, and it's, you know, relaxing, and you can connect to people through doing it. I don't think that makes anyone lesser. I think that people use YouTube for different reasons, and I think there's different sorts of YouTubers. If I wanted to get lots of views and engagement, I know exactly the sort of topics I could broach, but to be honest, you get a lot of, I know when I talk about a lot of feminist stuff, you do get a lot of harassment and all that kind of thing, so I suppose I do pick my topics because I don't want to be on the receiving end of a lot of harassment, and I'm very careful with the way I frame it. So I think in some ways as well, it's more difficult for women or feminists on YouTube in that respect, because sometimes saying what you want and making the content you want is, you have to think about your own mental health first, because you might want to say something, but is it worth the days of harassment over it? You have to think about that in your head, and often it is worth it, but it's a lot to deal with. So I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to go towards the more controversial issues. Dean, I would say do what makes you happy. Do videos that will be like a bit of a release to you, and something that you can do to chill, something you're going to enjoy. I mean, editing a video takes a while, so make sure that you are doing something that you like and something that you care about. I would advise, I wouldn't even really think about engagement. That's not the way I think about things. Like, I said before about how, like, the like and dislike ratio on videos, a lot of people see that as, like, this huge deal, but for me, I don't even really think about that, because that doesn't judge for me the success of a video. It judges the opinions of the people watching it, but I don't make a video for the approval of the people watching it. I make a video because I believe in what I'm saying, and so that doesn't really matter, and that shouldn't matter, surely. So yeah, that's my advice to you. Don't think about all the outside stuff. Do what you love. Make videos that you really like, and if you do something controversial, I would say look after yourself, and just remember that there's going to be a lot of nasty trolls online, but just try and tune them out. And you can disable your comments if you want to. A lot of people see that as a weakness, but that's fine. If you need to do that just to kind of like blot it out, do that. Holly, back on Six the Musical, has said about Catherine Howard's song and how it has a very different feel when it's live. I think the message still comes across, but it's so much more emotional in live recordings, and the choreography is very impactful, but I don't know if there are videos of it. I looked for videos of it, and nobody has illegally recorded it, unfortunately, so I haven't seen that. But from what I heard of the song, I don't know, in some ways I found it very moving, because I was glad that it acknowledged the fact that Catherine Howard was a victim, but I don't know, I still don't know. I'd need to see a version before I made up my mind about it. Sammy, which is spelled Samiiei, so I don't know how to pronounce that, but you ask, are you coming back to Tumblr anytime soon? I don't think so. I mean, a lot of my early crit was on Tumblr, and, you know, that was kind of where I kind of grew this kind of, this image as like a fandom critic and a feminist, and I wasn't even that hardcore a feminist really in that time, I don't think, but like I was considered to be like hardcore feminist, so I became like a bit of an internet baddie to some people. But yeah, I don't really feel the need to go back because I'm doing fine without it. I use Twitter to talk about stuff. I've got a lot of things going on with my course. I've got a website that I'm making, which will probably be for my criticism and all that kind of thing. I've got my YouTube channel where I can express myself. I don't really feel like I need to go back to Tumblr, so probably not. Elizabeth Grace, that's a lovely name, asked, would you consider doing a live stream on YouTube? I think it could be very fun and help with some of the feelings of isolation that people might be experiencing. Now, I would love to do that, but the reason that I don't do that is that our internet is too slow. So I've tried this loads of times before, because when I've had like nights where my mum's been out and I have really struggled on my own, I've thought, oh, I'd love to do like a YouTube live stream. But our internet is just too bad. We have like not a very good internet, and we don't have the money to buy a fast internet. You have no idea how long it takes for my videos to upload like to YouTube. Sometimes I have a video uploading for like 2 days and it's just non-stop uploading. So yeah, I'm afraid I can't. I would, but I just can't. I suppose I could record on a phone, but then I'd have to record myself recording on the phone, and it would be really complicated because I have to record the audio, then I'd have to record the phone screen, and I just think it would be a little bit much at the moment. So not for now, but I wish I could. Oh, this is an interesting one. Okay, Singing With Myself asks, everyone knows you love Anne Boleyn, but who is your favourite of the Tudor monarchs? Not necessarily as a person, just who you find the most interesting. Mine is Henry VII. Henry VII is a very good choice. I like learning about all of them, obviously. Yeah, Henry VII is a good one because I'm very fascinated with him, but also his mother. So Margaret Beaufort is someone that I'm specifically interested in, and I have a couple of books about her back here. She had like a very troubled life, and she played a huge part in getting him to the throne and for like kick-starting the whole Tudor dynasty. Yeah, he's interesting because he's a bit like he's a bit Daenerys Targaryen, isn't he, Henry VII, because he comes over with his army and battles and takes it from Richard III. I have to say that actually the one I find the most interesting is Mary I, because I feel like her life was made up of a lot of trauma. I think she experienced the mistreatment of her mother, the feeling of her losing her place that she'd been born into, being, in her head she would have felt usurped, the strange relationship she would have had with Elizabeth, because at times you know that they were close and she had that maternal instinct and she wanted to love her and she did care about her, it seemed, but that feeling that Elizabeth was her enemy because of their religions, the idea that she clung to her Catholic faith, perhaps so fervently because of her mother and the disservice that was done to her. I think it's very tragic what she turned into, her situation with Philip. Her phantom pregnancy is absolutely heartbreaking. I think she was a very troubled person, and obviously she burned a lot of people at the stake. And it's interesting though that she is called Bloody Mary because Henry VIII actually killed more people than she did, but I suppose hers was over a shorter time. But still, yeah, I feel pity for her, but then I also feel like she becomes a villain, and it's almost sad. If she was a fictional character, to watch her journey would be sad, to see where she comes from, her proud upbringing, and then the sudden fall, and her determination, and growing old, and wishing to find love, and desperate for children, and none of it ever happens for her, and then she burns a load of people. So, yeah, very interesting. She's probably the one I find the most interesting. Mike Toth says, I heard you write Doctor Who fanfiction. Do you share it on the internet? I used to write, I think I wrote like a couple of Amy and 11 pieces on Tumblr before, but more like characterising stuff, so it wasn't like shipping stuff, like I don't ship 11 and Amy. I just used to get frustrated by the fact that Stephen Moffat would forget the backstories of characters and they wouldn't feel like real people, so I used to want to fill in the gaps, and especially with Amy, because I felt like she had such a rich, there was so much potential for her, with like the idea that she saw psychiatrists when she was growing up, and she knew things were real and people were telling her it wasn't. There's so many parallels with mental health and mental illness and gaslighting and what that would do to a person, and her psychological state was never really delved into, and it was an opportunity we haven't had with a companion before, like the idea that she grew up knowing a truth or thinking something was real, and everyone telling her it was in her head and she was crazy. I mean, we never went into that, and I wrote a couple of bits to do with Amy's perspective on that, but I haven't written a lot of fan fiction. I mean, I write Doctor Who fan fiction just on my laptop for fun. Mostly I just write about the Doctor and the Master, and like their history on Gallifrey. I'm very like intrigued by that. And I've written like various bits of this series, but all my fan fiction for Doctor Who is like fix-it fan fiction. So I don't really put it anywhere because I just can't be bothered. There's too much of it. Immy Lucy says, hi Claudia, hi Immy. I've been watching you since way back around 2014, so having these daily vlogs during this time has been really helpful, so thank you. I'm also an English Lit student, so I'm wondering what have been some of your favourite texts that you've studied that you previously hadn't read or weren't familiar with. I would say the big one is Catherine Mansfield, who is a New Zealand colonial writer that came over here to England, and she wrote short stories and that dealt with a lot of issues around like classism and gender issues, and she was a modernist writer, so she was considered quite sort of like radical at the time, her style anyway, because it was modernist. Her stories really resonate with me, and she actually inspired Virginia Woolf and her style going forward. So I actually am going to be controversial as well and say I prefer Catherine Mansfield's work to Virginia Woolf's work. She is one that I just never had even heard of, and I found her fantastic. And also, weirdly, Bleak House by Charles Dickens, and I'm not really a huge fan of Dickens' style because I think his plots are brilliant, but I feel like his actual style as a narrator, the style of his narrations are just so pompous and they go on and on and on and on and on. But that's what I like about Bleak House, is that there's a lot of perspective for... There's a character called Esther Summerson, and she's become one of my favourite characters. There was criticism at the time, actually. I think it was Charlotte Bronte who wrote some criticism of the way Esther was written and said that she found it to be kind of two-dimensional and she was too goody-goody and she found it sexist. And by the way, that's something I love about my course. It's knowing that there have been people like me throughout history that have critiqued popular media, like for sexism and stuff, so I'm among good peers. But yeah, I don't personally agree with her on that. I actually really like Esther. Obviously, Charles Dickens was not a feminist writer and like he could have done way better, but I think looking back, I suppose it seems good to me because of other Dickens novels and other novels of the time. Like Esther to me seems very, I don't know, I just like her a lot. I like Esther. Sarah A asks, do you ever find yourself like weirdly amazed that you're still here, like you've survived to this point? Throughout my teens I was convinced I would just end my life before I finished high school, so I had no idea or plans for what I wanted to do with my life. And well, I'm 21 now, so yay. But now I have absolutely no idea what I want to do with my life, and I'm a little bit depressed that I didn't take the time to develop other hobbies and skills, like cooking, socialising, budgeting, etc. for adulthood. Yes, I feel like that all the time. That is incredibly relatable. In fact, I think I've spoken about that before a while ago in a video. I really do relate to that, because I didn't actually think that I would live past the age of 18, so I didn't plan for it. Like, I was going through the motions, but I didn't think I'd be here, and then suddenly I was past 18, and I had to just keep living, and I wasn't prepared for anything, I hadn't planned for anything, I hadn't really been living in the real world. My teen years, from I'd say the age of like 16 to maybe 16 to 18, was such bad mental health. I'd had bad mental health since I was like 12, but those years were so incredibly bad that I didn't even feel like a real person. I would have whole days of derealisation where I didn't think things were real. I would think it was like a virtual reality. Sometimes I woke up and I thought this is all a dream and I'm dead, and I just was not actually there as a person, so I didn't learn all those skills like you're talking about. I didn't learn any of those. I've had to learn those skills later. And also the hard thing is thinking about the lost years. That's what was really hard, because I feel like I have lost my teen years when I was supposed to experiment and have fun and do all those like silly things that teenagers that are healthy do, and I just never did any of that. Like, I was so ill, and it's sad because I've lost like a chunk of my life, which lots of people look back on that part of their life so fondly, and I just don't have it. So yeah, I get that completely. You said you're 21 now and you're still here, so well done. But I think once you hit a certain point you realise that actually, I've made it this far, I'll probably make it to the end. Like, that's what I found anyway. Because, I mean, I'm going to be 26 next month, and, like, hopefully, I'll just carry on until I just naturally meet my end now. So, because I've got past when I thought I would die, so I'm here still. It's really weird to think about. So weird. So Charlotte Thompson has left quite a long comment. I'm not going to read the whole comment because this will be really long. But essentially Charlotte's point is that Charlotte is in agreement with me about the ideas about the Tories and the NHS, and, you know, would be a Labour voter, but has raised the point that what's the best way to go about that in terms of she worries about alienating Tory voters, and that people being anti-Tory online vocally might drive people away. And I can see your point of view there. I don't actually agree with that necessarily, because I feel like in some ways that is a privileged standpoint to take, although I understand it. I feel like this is not politics. I feel like that's coming at it as if politics is like a debate, a discussion, like it's just a normal change of views, you know, like an exchange of views. But to a lot of people, Tory policy has caused death. So, trigger warning here for mental health and suicide and stuff, but I actually found out that a friend of mine from school, I found this out via a documentary on the TV, and it really upset me. Basically, she was very suicidal and she ended up killing herself because the mental health, it turned out when there was an inquiry that she was given a mental health team, but because they were so poorly funded, because the Tory had cut the funding, she just got lost in the system. She killed herself, and they didn't find her for days. And, like, that broke my heart. And, of course, that's not the only thing. I mean, I have relatives who work in the NHS. I know people who are on benefits, who go to food banks. It's people who have disability, who have mental health issues or physical disability, who are being deemed fit for work, then they can't cope, and so they're not getting their money, and they are just dying. It is that serious. So I think I can understand what you're saying in terms of course we have to debate, and that's why I always have my comment section open, and I'm open to talking about these issues with people who would consider themselves to be conservatives, because that is important. But equally, I don't think the answer is to tell those people who are so angry about those terrible things, angry about things like Grenfell and the way the poor are being treated, you know, actual deaths, you know, it's not just a distant thing, it's real pain and suffering, and sometimes the empathetic response to that is to be angry, and is to be harsh, and is to just say to people, wake up, you've got to wake up. So I don't necessarily agree with you on that one, although I can understand what you're saying to a degree. I think that you should never shut down debate, but also people aren't always required to perform that. People aren't always required to show that. People are allowed to show anger and be upset with these very human tragedies, and put that out there. But I agree with you, if someone's aim is to, you know, to educate and that sort of thing, then of course they can't do that. But I think those are different things, and I don't want that to get muddied, because that's different, and I don't want to be policing people on their very real responses. Okay, and last one I'm going to answer for today, because this is pretty long, is from Vilku Elo. What is the first thing you're doing when all of this is over and we can be outside once more? I'm getting a tattoo and hugging all my friends. That's really nice. What's your tattoo going to be of? Is it like a name, or is it art? Have you done it yourself? Have you chosen it? I've thought about getting tattoos before, but then I thought that, like, I change my interests so quickly sometimes. I think it's because of the BPD that I realised that having something actually tattooed on me is probably not a good idea, because I would just wake up one day and be like, why is this on me? I don't like this anymore. The first thing I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to, like, see Dan, like, to an annoying degree. Like, I don't think he'll actually be able to shake me off. Like, I will just be, like, there with Dad all the time. I'll be at Grandma and Granddad's all the time, because I already miss them so much. And I'll go and see Dad, and I'm pretty sure our Indian side of the family are going to have a big party, because we were originally going to have a big party to celebrate the my grandmother that died in January. Would have been her birthday in May, and the original plan was to maybe all get together to celebrate her life, but we can't do that, so I suppose when it's over we'll just have a big party. And I'll be able to go to the shops, which is exciting, because now it's just Mum that goes to the shops. Not that I'd like to, because the queues sound like they're really awful, but just actually being out at our local shopping centre will feel like a treat. Okay, I'm going to go now. I will see you tomorrow. As always, leave your questions and your comments in the comments section, or you can contact me on Twitter. Love you loads. Look after yourselves and wash your hands. Okay, love you. Bye!